Welcome to this edition of the Housing Ombudsman Service podcast. I'm Victoria King, one of the Sector Learning and Development Leads here at the Housing Ombudsman Service. And today I'm joined by Charlotte Todd, Executive Director, Property at Eastlight Community Homes Limited. Charlotte, welcome to the podcast today. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Eastlight Community Homes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Charlotte Todd. I'm the Executive Director of Property at Eastlight Community Homes. We've got about 14,500 properties now. We're a community gateway organisation. We're based in Essex with homes across the east of England.
So 2025, we're going to see the release of our next Spotlight report, Repairing Trust, which will focus on repairs from the angle of trust and from different perspectives. And Charlotte, you came to one of our stress test sessions for one of our recommendations. It's the first time we've ever done a session like that, and we found it really useful, and we made quite a few changes as a result of it. So firstly, I wanted to say thank you so much for taking part in that. So we noticed in that session how welcoming and open you were at Eastlight, which is part of the reason we've invited you here today for this podcast. The other reason is because of your approach to repairs. Could you tell us more about this approach? Are repairs carried out in-house, or do you contract some of them out?
Yeah, so we've got an in-house team that we refer to as our Home Solutions team. And within that team, we've got about 115 skilled operatives, and we really prioritise investing in their development to ensure that they can effectively deliver the majority of our planned and responsive services to our customers. And then for our more specialised tasks like asbestos removal, scaffolding, sewage treatment, or anything like gas, we use trusted contractors. Additionally, we maintain a network of overflow contractors that help us efficiently manage periods of high demand, which we're seeing more and more at the moment.
That's great. So you've got those operatives on hand, they're skilled up, so you can just assign that right specialist to each job. And the work is being done to that high standard, but also you're reducing the likelihood of errors or rework needing to be redone because the staff are skilled up.
Mm-hmm.
Having those overflow contractors too, that's such a great idea. So you're not overburdening your core operatives, but you're still able to move with that ebb and flow of demand. So thinking back now to your repairs approach then, what's working particularly well in your repairs approach, and why is it working so well?
So I think firstly having our own team is something that's helping us deliver great customer satisfaction to our customers. So the customer satisfaction with our repair service often reaches nearly 80%, according to our TSM data. That's higher than the national average, and we're working further to improve satisfaction. We're partly doing that by putting into place our repairs pledge, and through this pledge we've made some promises to our customers about what it is that they can expect from our service, and that hopefully means that customers are better able to hold us to account. Now, I talked earlier about our staff, so we've got a great team of operatives within our Home Solutions team, and our average turnover is about 5.6%. So it's well below the national average of 16%, as quoted by the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. That doesn't go without its own challenges, because equally we want to make sure that we've got the right people delivering great service to our customers. So there's definitely a balance of providing a great place for people to thrive and to grow and deliver great services to our customers, but also, make sure that we're getting the best out of them. Another thing that's really helping us is data-led working. So we're developing more systems to be able to help us make better informed decisions, and give us the best possible chance of achieving those first-time fixes that we know our customers think are, is just so important. They just want us to go out once and get it done for them. We're still spending lots of money investing in kitchens and bathrooms and new heating systems. We replace roofs, we're fitting windows, and we're helping residents to live as independently as possible by continuing to spend money installing aids and adaptations. With the data tools, we definitely need to work kind of better across departments. So that helps work between our asset teams and our housing teams, and having access to that information helps us before we even go to a customer's house, kind of know what it is that they need from us, and that helps us be really efficient as well as deliver great customer service. Another thing that helps us with our efficiency is making our operatives patch-based, and we're shifting the whole organisation into a more place-based model. But by sort of assigning our operatives and our managers to work within one of 4 geographic areas, we've found that has led to them gaining better knowledge of local stock types, getting to know our customers, and in turn we can stock our vehicles with the parts that are most likely to be needed in certain types of home, and again that helps us support sort of the likelihood of a first time fix. Another advantage of working in patches is that our customers have a single area manager to contact. They're more likely to be familiar with those team members, and actually kind of talking at it from a sustainability point of view, we're managing to reduce our carbon emissions by making sure that we're doing as fewer journeys as possible to go out and deliver our repairs in the communities that we work in.
So you mentioned there, sort of in the middle, about staff retention, and you've got 156 team members in the Home Solutions repairs team, and the average turnover of team members is 5.6%, which is, as you mentioned, well below the national average of 16%. Why do you think that is?
Well, so I'll be biased, wouldn't I? And I'd obviously say that I think that Eastlight's a great place for people to work. The offer that we have for all staff, but our kind of operatives as well, is really supportive and people enabling to have a decent work-life balance. So my other half, he works in the construction industry. He doesn't get sick pay, he doesn't get holiday pay. You know, him being able to spend time with me and our family is difficult. So I think that the beauty of having operatives come and working within a social housing setting means that they can benefit from some of the the positives that you get from working and having a kind of salaried job. So our terms and conditions are good. We have equal maternity and paternity pay and leave. So yeah, it's as important for a kind of female and a male to be able to spend time with their children. So I think that's a great pool for people. We offer wellbeing grants. We have flexible working requests. We've got an incentive scheme to really drive efficiency. We listen. So I've attended meetings with our operatives before about things that matter to them, but you don't necessarily think of as an executive kind of sat behind a computer a lot of the time. So we changed uniforms, we changed the type of boots that they could get access to, we allowed them to start buying sort of smaller stock items out in the field so they didn't have to get frustrated and kind of driving back to stores all the time. So I think listening to them is another way of helping retain great staff. But as I kind of touched on earlier, I think that there needs to be balance, and I never know when you look at figures if kind of 5.6 average turnover is a good thing or not. Like, if it means that we are retaining great people who want to do a good job, who deliver great work and great customer service, then great. But we also have to really effectively kind of manage people too, and things like sickness and productivity. So yeah, I think that it's a great place to work.
The other thing you mentioned was your repairs pledge, which you can find on your website. I'll put the link in the show notes, and I'm pinching the words now from your website. The pledge was something you created with staff and residents, and you worked together to identify what matters when a resident needs a repair. Can you tell us more about the repairs pledge?
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned listening to our customers and kind of working with customers, and we know by listening really closely to our customer feedback that the repairs service is the one that matters most to them. So to kind of design what that looks and feels like, again, in isolation or behind a desk, kind of, I don't think you'll ever really get to delivering a service that customers want if you don't ask them what it is they want and work with them to shape it. So we work with customers to create the repairs pledge, and that was structured around 4 key areas that they said mattered most to them. So when they request a repair, when we carry out a repair, when further works are required, and once a repair is completed. So amongst those 4 themes, we set out 3 clear commitments for each stage of the repairs journey. just to ensure that we kind of had that transparency and trust. So I won't go through them all individually. As you said, you'll kind of add the link to our website, but in short, it's really about clear communication, timely actions, and a commitment to get things right. We know how important it is for our customers to feel confident in our repair service, and that's exactly what we aim to do every time.
So you, your teams, everyone at Eastlight are proud of the service that you provide, but you acknowledge that you don't always get it right 100% of the time. So it's like what you're saying is residents, give us your feedback so we can identify where we should be doing better. Tell us if something isn't right, and being open to feedback and listening to residents mean that you have that opportunity to make those necessary adjustments and meet the residents' expectations and provide that quality service. So residents are feeling heard, but they're also seeing that the feedback is being acted on and they're not living with the knock-on impact of a sticking plaster over a broken leg when it comes to repairs. There must be some challenges though for Eastlight when it comes to repairs. What challenges are you facing and how are you mitigating these?
Yeah, there's definitely challenges, and I think the last probably 10 to 12 months of my career with repairs specifically has been one of the most challenges. So we've seen a huge increase in demand, much like most of the sector, and that's been driven by kind of aging stock and our customers understanding that we are there and we're accountable for delivering repairs, so kind of putting a demand on the service that they quite rightly should. And also we've acquired some properties and we've taken a really proactive approach when we've taken them into our ownership and have gone out and visited every single one, and that's generated quite a lot of homes, so a lot of repairs, so that has really increased demand. It continues to climb across the sector, as I spoke about. I think there's an average increase between 15 and 20% over the last 12 months, but sort of connecting to the things I just talked about, we've experienced a more pronounced rise. So over the last 4 weeks, demand surged by about 49% compared to the same period last year. So we're trying to kind of get that back on track. We're using a network of overflow contractors to support completions and reallocating resources to drive more efficiency. For instance, we're using our healthy homes operatives during the summer months when demand for their service sort of typically declines. We have also introduced an incentive scheme, so that's really saying to our tradespeople, the average amount of jobs you complete each day is X. For every job over that you do, we'll pay you more for it. So really driving efficiency within the structures that we've got. I think some of the challenges that we've got are costs. So the consumer price index continues to rise, with the Building Cost Information Service reporting 12% increase in building costs since the pandemic. That's going to increase more. I think there's a further 17% rise projected over the next 3 years. So in response to that, we're kind of continuing to uphold our commitment to sound procurement practices, ensuring value for money always remains a top priority. I talked a little bit about the aging stock. Our average home is about 45 years, so that presents its own challenges, sourcing parts, maintaining older systems. And there's some key challenges with that, such as things like non-traditional builds. We've got some post-war prefab buildings, and we're looking through whether or not they sort of are still an asset that we want to maintain, and we'll assess, using our own asset performance model, we'll assess whether or not they're kind of continue to be viable for us to provide, or if we need to look at something else like perhaps disposal. Energy efficiency legislation and EPCs continue to be a challenge, and we're carrying out EPC assessments and prioritising properties to invest. Those with the lowest ratings, we're kind of trying to shift first, but equally understanding that some of those properties might not make it. So now we've got a property by property plan for how we're going to get them to EPC. We're at about 80% now, and of those that remain, there's about 95 that we're trying to understand what it is that we might need to do differently, because there's a point, we talked about value for money earlier, but at what point do we consider whether or not they remain viable? We've got older systems in some unique homes. We've got some lovely kind of listed buildings, buildings that we built using non-traditional methods of construction. So we've got specific programs for those. And we're enhancing kind of our understanding of those specific techniques. and I think that's the beauty of having an in-house team, is that we can kind of think a little bit more holistically about how we might repair or replace the roofs, and combining them with loft insulations and solar panels, to not only improve EPC ratings but help our customers more affordably heat their homes. Yeah, so I think, yeah, I suppose that the final thing really is about challenges with material quality and how there's accelerated wear and tear. So we're doing some testing of alternative products to balance the need for durable solid front doors with the residents' preferences, obviously, for lightweight and user-friendly systems. So yeah, lots of challenges, lots of learning, and I guess it will just continue and continue.
So there's been lots of changes at Eastlight over the past year or so. Could you give us a summary of what those changes are and the impact that these changes have had on the repair service?
Yeah, so last year we restructured the leadership team. So we had an executive team, a director team, and then a head of service team. So we stripped out the directors team, and have redirected resources into our customer facing services, the ones that we know kind of make the biggest difference to our customers. So that restructure has had a huge impact on our repair service. It's resulted in greater executive level accountability for repairs with me. And I also had the compliance and estate and asset management as well. So I think connecting those three services only sort of delivers a really improved experience for the customer, because there's no infighting. There's kind of one executive lead that's accountable for it. But ultimately, what we've been able to do is use some of those resources and have more people supporting our customers' experience in ASB, and more operatives out in our communities creating completing repairs for people. So I think what we've done is, yeah, shored things up a little bit more at a leadership team, but to really drive improvement in customer facing services.
Having that executive level accountability is so important because you've got that strategic oversight and compliance. You're making sure that the repairs service it's aligning with the organisation's goals and objectives, but also you've got those adequate resources allocated to repair services, and the executive team can make sure that the repair service is working efficiently and effectively. And something that comes up really frequently in our complaint determinations around repairs is a lack of communication with residents who've reported a repair. So you can probably preempt my next question. How do you communicate with residents throughout the repairs process?
Okay, so the normal way, if you like, when things are supposed to go perfectly well, customers will be notified of their appointment via the preferred contact method. They'll receive a reminder the day before an appointment, and then an additional update is sent to confirm when the operative is en route to their home. If further work's needed, our scheduling team will contact the customer to arrange a convenient time and date for the next visit. Now, I think doing that, one repair, so go out, fix a tap, go in, you manage to do that and go away, like that's really simple. But actually, it's the larger, more complex works where we've understood from learning from complaints that we don't get it right all of the time. So for those larger or more complex works, we have a dedicated customer liaison officer, and they coordinate the process, and they act as a link between the customer and the team members responsible for the repairs. Something that we've introduced actually just in the last sort of couple of months was we've got a specific team now. So we always had a healthy homes team that were there to manage the damp and mold work, but what we've also added in there now is our complex works and our complaint, stuff that's coming out of complaints and things we know that we're more likely to get wrong. And by having that dedicated team of I'm not sure I should say it, but elite operatives that we know are the ones that will go out and get it right all of the time, and have really kind of got enough experience at Eastlight to know how to manage a customer, the trickier customer contacts from start to finish and get great results at the end. We've got those together in the team, so they manage the more complex cases. And any stage 2 complaint that we get, our head of service will contact the customer directly, because he really wants to understand what's gone on and take accountability and ownership to make sure that we get it right again. And actually, we don't have that many complaints about our repair service. It's in really good shape, albeit we've had a huge backlog, we've had overdue orders, and we've been working through a recovery plan. We've maintained customer satisfaction throughout, and I just think that definitely comes down to how you communicate with customers.
So our forthcoming Spotlight report talks about communication and how it can either foster or erode trust. And having that open communication, which is done in line with the residents' communication preferences, really does foster that positive relationship between landlords and residents. So like residents can plan for the works taking place, it minimises the disruption in their lives, and it makes sure that they're there when the repair is due to take place. So you're cutting down on those access issues. Also thinking about safety reasons, if you're communicating with that resident, you can make sure that precautions are taken to ensure that everyone stays safe, especially with potentially hazardous works. So you've told us about your repair service. Could you tell us more around knowing that the repair service is working well? You've given us some examples of your elite repairs team. I love it. How are you monitoring its success? How do you know it's working well?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the minute, as I talked about earlier, we're in a recovery position. So the reality is we're monitoring it frequently. At the moment, our executive team are getting weekly reports of repairs completed, what's in our work in progress, how many voids we've got open, and our board are getting it fortnightly as well. So that kind of gives you a bit of a flavour of the kind of level of scrutiny that we've got in that at the moment. So in terms of how we sort of day to day manage our repairs and get oversight of it, we've invested in a dedicated 3-person business improvement team. They sit within the home solutions team and just are focused on continuously enhancing the repairs performance. They monitor real-time data, they identify trends, they make recommendations for job reassignments or the involvement of overspills where necessary. So the metrics we're using is number of open repairs, number of overdue repairs, average waiting time, the percentage of repairs completed within timeframes, number of repairs completed, and ordinarily this dashboard comes through to the leadership team on a weekly basis. We have a quarterly customer voice report on our website, which includes our TSM performance and feedback from customer journey surveys. And we also track the number of repairs related complaints and the outcome of those complaints. But yeah, it's been the kind of last few months really trying to monitor what's happening. We have the amount of performance measures that we're looking at is more than ever. So how many have we got with contractors? Are they on time? How quickly we turn jobs around? Like, it's been a really intense time of scrutiny on performance. And as of last week, we managed to get our repairs back to exactly where they needed to be. So hopefully we can go back to business as usual, and we can kind of stop the high levels of reporting. But that comes with actually a whole scale review of how we're delivering our repair service, so we can flex to the ever-changing demand that we see. So that's to come next year.
So I'm glad you mentioned performance metrics there and talk through some of those, because metrics are such a useful tool in monitoring progress and measuring performance, and they can be really useful in identifying areas that need improvement, but also be used to inform decision making as well. So you're not just relying on intuition, you've got that cold hard data there to say these are the strategic choices we need to be making. So you mentioned there 2025, the big year for changes in legislation with Awaab's law coming in, and then obviously more changes with Awaab's law in 26 and 27. What steps are you taking now to prepare for the legislation changes proposed later in 2025? What have you been up to at Eastlight?
Yeah, so we've been really proactive actually in implementing the necessary changes under Awaab's law, and we're really ahead of the curve. So we shaped our damp and mold policy January 2024 with a 1-year life cycle, knowing that there was going to be changes. So we were already going out within the timescales that are required by Awaab's law. The way that we induct people at Eastlight and the way that we keep people trained and updated with sector-wide issues is so important. So, for example, our induction program includes sector-specific training to ensure that new colleagues, and particularly those that are new to the housing sector, are fully equipped to understand the customer-centric nature of the work that we do at Eastlight. So for damp and mold, everybody in the business has basic awareness training. Like, everybody needs to know the challenges that we're facing as a sector. And then we've enhanced the training and development of staff that regularly visit customers' homes. So they get the kind of tier 2 training, so we ensure that they're fully prepared to meet the highest standards of service. And then we have conducted a comprehensive training needs analysis across all roles, ensuring that each team member has access to that really relevant, impactful learning opportunities. So all of our frontline people will have HHSRS training by the time that Awaab's law goes live in October. So our approach to training combines a variety of blended learning methods to suit different needs, including in-person training on key topics such as safeguarding, manual handling, and asbestos awareness to ensure compliance and maintain workplace safety. We have got a bespoke in-house training program specifically for our operatives and managers, and that really focuses on working safely in customers' homes whilst embedding that customer first mindset to elevate service quality and professionalism. And to further strengthen our team's capabilities, we're rolling out first aid awareness training for all operatives, ensuring that they are prepared to offer urgent assistance if needed. We're also introducing J9 training to help our workforce identify the signs of domestic abuse, reinforcing our ongoing commitment to safeguarding and community well-being. And in anticipation of the future legislation, we've enrolled our trades managers in level 4 CIH program managing housing maintenance, and that really demonstrates our commitment to professional development and excellence in service delivery. And our first cohort actually started in December, so we've got 12 managers. They're now submitting their initial projects and applying their knowledge to real world challenges, and it's been really interesting to see kind of them develop and grow and ask different questions and use different like different pieces of software that they probably would have not used before. So they're doing presentations in PowerPoint, and yeah, it's really interesting to see them learn. So to kind of really help them and ensure that they succeed, we've established a great internal support framework. So they have access to learning resources, mentorship, and tailored guidance. So throughout that process, we ensure that we have regular check-ins, there's peer support networks, and we've got materials that are designed to really deepen their understanding of best practices in housing maintenance. And I really hope that by investing in their development that we're strengthening our leadership capabilities, and that ensures really that we continue to deliver the highest standards of service to our customers and our communities.
So you started off there by talking about the training of staff and that you've undertaken that training needs analysis. And that's something that lots of organisations don't do, but it's actually really, really important to do that, to identify the gaps in staff skills and then look at, okay, what training do we need to implement? How should this training look? When should it be undertaken? And then you go from there. It is the basis of employee development, and it does support that professional growth and development of staff, which then you can align to the staff members' goals, but also the organisation's objective. And I loved how you talked about the blended learning there and the mix of, like face-to-face training, but as well as professional qualifications as well. And you also mentioned there that you've got a framework in place to continue with the learning and development of colleagues. And at the end of the day, if you're investing in your staff, it helps them perform better and grow, but also those staff members are going to be happier, more satisfied and prepared for big changes like Awaab's law, and be motivated to do their roles and provide the best service to residents. But also you talked there about introducing J9 training to help your workforce identify the signs of a domestic abuse, and reinforcing that ongoing commitment to safeguarding and community wellbeing. Can you tell us more about the J9 training?
Yeah, absolutely. So the J9 training is all about empowering people to recognise, respond to, and refer anyone who might be experiencing domestic abuse. So what's really, really important to note is this isn't about trying to fix the situation or taking on the role of a specialist, but it's about knowing how to help someone access the support that they need. And that's by offering understanding and guidance to the right resource. So we've offered that to all staff, and that participation will help us with our Domestic Abuse Housing Alliance accreditation. So I definitely encourage everyone to look up the J9 training and see how that fits with your organisation.
Brilliant. I'll try and put the links then into the meeting notes.
Right.
Brilliant. So back to repairs then, before I spend the rest of the podcast talking about your learning and development of staff. So I mentioned towards the beginning of the podcast that we spoke to you guys at Eastlight as part of our field work on the Spotlight on Repairing Trust report. Can you tell us about your experience of working with HOS for the report?
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was really interesting and really great to include so many people across the team as well. I think so often it becomes, the exec or a director sits and talks to the housing ombudsman, but actually we welcomed the housing ombudsman into our repairs hub in October, and they met with people from our management team, people from our stores team who are there kind of delivering the materials that people need to do the work in the field, our scheduling team, and also some of our operatives. So yeah, nothing to hide, right? Like, we're an open organisation. We want to partner with the Housing Ombudsman and learn from others and the Ombudsman and each other and everybody. Like, the more that we kind of come together, we can have a relationship that's positive and proactive, all for the best of our customers. So um, I don't think anyone wants to wait until they receive a complaint to figure out where they need to improve. And it feels like it's never been more important to gain new insights and to contribute whatever we can towards improving services for social housing residents across the country. So, not just those that live in an Eastlight home. So, yeah, why wouldn't we welcome people that probably have the biggest access to things that go wrong to kind of partner together and find a better way of serving the customers that live in our communities?
What do you hope that the Repairing Trust Spotlight report will achieve? It's due for release later this year. What do you hope it will achieve?
I'm really optimistic that this will lead to significant improvements in services for residents across the country. It's an incredibly valuable initiative, and it uses the perspectives of so many residents, operatives, landlords, contractors, MPs, and councillors. So, we're all aware that trust in landlords has steadily declined, and it's essential that we reverse this trend. And the only way that we can do that is by understanding the priorities of each group and building those relationships grounded in accountability. And that's such an important word. And on a personal level, I'm really eager to gain insights from the contribution of other housing associations, and look forward to sharing the report's findings with my team.
It's a huge piece of work. I'm really, really, really looking forward to read it. It's being authored by Zoe and Chris in our Insight Development team, and I think it's going to be a fascinating read. Charlotte, when we spoke to you for the field work, you mentioned that you were undertaking a master's and your thesis was on the unintended consequences of Awaab's law. I think you finished that now, haven't you? But can you tell us more about your thesis and more about the master's?
Yeah, so I just finished my master's in sustainability at Cranfield University, and my thesis focused on the unforeseen outcomes of the legislation, to really understand if there was a root cause, if you like, and it really explored the interdependencies between different groups. So, for example, housing providers, the government, the NHS, kind of loads of different actors within the ecosystem. So I use a systems thinking methodology to map relationships and understand and examine the ecosystem in which the new legislation is being introduced. And I've kind of been thinking along the same lines as the Ombudsman Repair and Trust report, in that I've examined the connections and feedback loops that exist between different parties. So my initial findings identified three key areas of connectivity within the ecosystem, which related to the repurposing of government funds, reducing the energy demand and emissions of social housing, and meeting and expediting the delivery of net zero targets. Now, as this system's got a really complex context, it would be really beneficial to conduct this same study with a wider group of people from actors within the ecosystem, and this could hopefully form the basis of a white paper. So it's a hot topic, and I was at the Future Homes Consortium last week, and we were talking about Awaab's law and kind of coming together to think about what the sector response can be to that and how we can do something that aligns that service in line with the law, but that we all, I don't know, have the same reporting methodology or all have the same framework. Like, let's get together and work on this together because it affects all of us.
Charlotte, it's come to the end of the podcast. I could talk to you all day, and I'm sure those listening would love to listen to you all day, but we have to draw it to a close. But thank you so much for your time today. And thank you so much to all of those who've listened to this podcast. As I mentioned throughout the podcast, you can find out more about Eastlight via their website, which is www.eastlighthomes.co.uk. And you can find out more about our podcast and resources on our website, which is www.housing-ombudsman.org.uk. And check the show notes for the links that we mentioned during the main bit of the podcast. So thanks again, Charlotte, and thank you all for listening.